If you've set a new goal recently and you were feeling so sure that this time would be different, you're finally going to stick with it, only to watch that motivation fade a few weeks later, you're definitely not alone. Most people don't fail because they're lazy or they're unmotivated. They fail because they make small but fixable mistakes when setting their goals. Mistakes that behavioral science has actually been studying for decades. I'm Dr. Lisa Brothers. I'm a behavior analyst, and I help ambitious professionals and creatives design systems that align their actions with both their goals and their values. Today, I'm breaking down 7 of the most common goal-setting mistakes that keep people stuck, and I'm going to be sharing how you can avoid each one using some research-backed strategies. And I want you to stay with me to the end so you have everything you need to set yourself up to become one of the few who actually follows through. So let's dive right in. Mistake number 1 is having vague goals. These look like ideas or hopes or dreams. Maybe it's an intention, but it's in our head. We haven't really committed it to paper or got really clear about what the actual goal is and how we're moving towards it. So research conducted by Locke and Latham, they developed goal-setting theory, and that looks at like 35 years of research. They've shown that clear, specific goals dramatically increase performance. So it's really important, clear and specific goals. So how you're going to avoid this, I'm not going to start by telling you to just go set a clear, specific goal. The first thing I'm actually going to tell you to do is really get clear on your values first. In this particular area, whatever it is, say it's your health and wellness, understand what your values are first, and then from there, you can identify a deeply personal and meaningful outcome to target that's based on those values. When these things are more aligned, you're going to be more likely to not only set a goal that is clear and specific, but you're also setting a goal that is really exciting for you to work towards and it feels authentic to you, and that helps drive your progress forward. And so I'm going to share a couple of quotes with you from Brian Tracy's book, Goals. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. He has a lot of great information in there. But he says the greater clarity that you have regarding your values on the inside, the more precise and effective your actions will be on the outside. It makes sense, right? If you understand what your values are in a particular area, it helps you understand how to move towards those. If we're not clear on our values, then it seems like any path will probably get us anywhere, and then we might find that we're not super happy with where we ended up because it really doesn't feel like the path that was true and authentic to us. So I do want to share with you really quickly that I have put together a personal goal setting guide, and I'll link to it down in the description, and it's going to give you a really simple, easy to follow process to identify your values in a particular area and then attach that to an outcome-oriented goal that really aligns with those values. So if you want that framework and that guidance, make sure you click down in the description and get a free copy of that while it's available. So the second mistake that is very common is not having a clear action plan. A lot of research, both on implementation intentions or if-then plans, has really shown that it boosts success towards goals substantially if you have these things in order. So there's a couple ways you can avoid not having a clear action plan. I'll give you some specific guidance on what that action plan should look like so you understand. And the first part is really planning ahead for what trigger or cue you want to occasion a specific goal-oriented action. So say your goal is to write a book. Then you want to have specific triggers or cues that you set up proactively that are going to signal to you it's time to write or it's time to revise, whatever it is. But having that specific trigger or cue helps your brain just very quickly, oh, it's that time. I need to do that action, right? And the second piece of this is planning ahead for obstacles. And that's where those if-then plans really come in handy as well. It basically helps you prepare ahead of time and knowing like, oh, oftentimes when I go to sit down to write, I notice I'm getting distracted by my phone, or I come to sit down at my desk to write and there's some mail that I need to attend to, and then I get some notifications on my computer, and then I get this alert about a local event happening in the news. And so I quickly find that I've lost 30 minutes of my writing time due to distractions in my environment, right? So if you know that, you can plan ahead and say, if I sit to write and find myself tending to distractions, I will, and then this is where you're basically reciting some sort of an alternative behavior. So you might say, if I sit down to write and notice a notification, I will turn on Do Not Disturb, right? If I sit down and I notice that I'm tending to other things in my environment, I will set them aside. So you're kind of coming up with a plan for once that behavior starts to occur or you notice the urge to do it, what are you going to do instead? And if you're thinking, I'm not sure how to do that for my specific goal, then I want you to check out step 2 of that goal setting guide that I mentioned before, because I put together a very specific format for you to outline your committed action plan, as well as an if-then plan for obstacles. So check that out if you need a little bit more guidance there. Okay, mistake number 3 is ignoring contradicting beliefs. A lot of times we think if we just ignore something, it might just go away, but oftentimes that's not the way it works. If part of you doesn't believe that that goal is actually possible or that it's worthwhile, you're going to subconsciously sabotage yourself and you won't end up working towards it consistently and achieving it. And this actually is supported by Albert Bandura's work in his concept of self-efficacy and how that kind of relates to our beliefs and how it impacts the actions that we take. And so you can avoid that by intentionally seeking out information and intentionally seeking out evidence that strengthens more supportive beliefs, beliefs that actually support that you can do it, it is possible for you, that it is worthwhile, because look at all these other people who've achieved this goal and how much it improved their life, that sort of stuff. So you really want to be very intentional about not only adopting those beliefs, but really continuing to expose yourself to that information and evidence that's really going to help strengthen those beliefs over time. And that's going to help you stick with it when things get challenging, when things are inconvenient. Having those really strong beliefs will help pull you through those times. And so another quote I'm going to mention from Brian Tracy's book is, all improvement in your life comes from changing your beliefs about what you can do and about what is possible for you. And I think that's just so powerful to think about. And it is so true. If we don't believe that something's possible for us, very slim chances we're going to stick with something long enough to see if it is possible. Okay, mistake number 4 is having an unsupportive external environment. This one, it crushes me as a behavior analyst because I'm really trained to look at the influence of our environment on our behavior, right? So I think we're really good at asking questions of, what do I want? How can I achieve it? Those feel really natural to ask, but oftentimes we stop there and we don't work on aligning our environment to increase follow-through. And so we avoid this by going further beyond those 2 questions, what do I want and how can I achieve it? We then go to this next question that's so important, which is, how do I need to set up my environment to support the behavior change that's necessary to achieve it? And I'm going to give you 4 different examples that I've included in that goal setting guide, and those are reducing friction at moments of decision. So basically making it easier. What can you do ahead of time to make that decision the easy one at the moment that you have to make the decision. So whether that's putting your workout clothes out ahead of time, or whether that's preparing healthy food alternatives, so when it's time for a snack, that is an easy option for you to just grab something healthy instead of something convenient that's less healthy. So it's all about making it easier. The second thing you can do to make your environment more supportive is eliminate temptations and distractions. Like I talked about earlier, when you sit down to write, if you had already set aside 30 minutes before the time to write to maybe take care of some of that mail or check your notifications, and then set yourself up at that moment with do not disturb already turned on, or with your table already cleared, whether you just need to have a catch-all place that you put everything else when it's time for writing. All I have is what I need and that's it. The more that you can eliminate temptations and distractions, the easier it's going to be, the more supportive your environment is to actually following through and doing those things that will move you closer to that goal. The third example is adding in some social accountability. That can really help on so many levels. It's just helpful to have other people who are also invested in hearing about your progress and keeping you accountable, but it's also helpful in anchoring in those beliefs too, that it is possible for you and that it is worthwhile and all of that. And then the last example I'll give you about creating a supportive environment for your goal is really immersion. And that can take a lot of different forms. It can be just simply like making efforts every week to be around or engage with different communities that are supportive of the types of goals that you're working towards. The other is maybe just mentors, whether that's through the form of just learning from people. It can be online or it can be in person, depending on what your particular goal is. And then the last is programs. So maybe you need a guided program that will help increase your follow through. And that's another way to set up your environment to be more supportive for that goal. And so Dr. BJ Fogg says design beats discipline, and I love that. And it's really just speaking to the power of changing your environment to make those desired behaviors easier and so much more effective and reliable, instead of trying to rely on willpower in those moments of decision. It's just so much easier if you change your environment. Okay, heading into mistake number 5. That's having no objective measures of progress. So we set a goal, maybe it's clear, but we don't go on to set up any objective way to say, hey, I'm actually making progress towards this. And so like easy ones to think of would be like a weight loss goal, and you have your specific numbers you're looking at, but like when you're writing the book, how are you measuring your progress? Is it more meaningful to you to look at the time that you've spent towards it? Or is it more meaningful to look at page numbers? Or is it more meaningful maybe to look at the word count, how many words you've produced, or how much you've revised, the quantity? So just really thinking of what's an objective measure when it comes to my particular goal, and how can I make sure I'm showing up and measuring that progress, and then making adjustments if I need to. So I really think you have to develop a habit of those tracking behaviors and also the reviewing behaviors, right? And the research really supports this. So tracking progress has been shown in a meta-analysis looking at over 190 different tests by Harkin et al. In 2016. It was shown to significantly improve outcomes, especially if that progress was written down or if it was shared with others. And then Locke and Latham, who developed the goal-setting theory, have also found that feedback loops are one of the most critical parts of sustained goal pursuit. And those feedback loops are just simply like that process of looking at your results or your outcome that you're getting and reviewing it, looking at those measures and seeing, do you need to change anything? You're just getting that feedback on how things are going and whether you're making progress. Okay, mistake number 6 is delaying action. You can avoid that by starting very simple and immediately. So even if it's something that just takes 2 minutes, it's rewiring your brain to take immediate action instead of having that bias for delay. If you're somebody who has a history of procrastinating and really feels inclined to delay and say, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it later, or I'm going to do it tomorrow, and then you find you get to that time and you're not doing it, then this is really important for you, is start simple and start immediately. What's one little teeny thing you can do today to move closer that's going to help build that bias for action over delay? And remember, action builds momentum, planning does not. So in Brian Tracy's book, Goals, he says that if he was given only 5 minutes to speak to you and he could convey only one thought that would help you be more successful, this is what he would tell you. Write down your goals, make plans to achieve them, and work your plans every single day. And so that leads me to mistake number 7, which is setting and forgetting about your goals. So this can be avoided by developing a daily habitual practice of reviewing and visualizing. This helps so much because, number 1, you're activating your reticular activating system. You're signaling to that part in your brain that this goal is important. This is still something that I want, that I desire. This is really valuable to me. The more that you anchor in and have that repetition of reviewing that every single day, your subconscious goes to work. You start noticing opportunities and you start noticing different things in your environment that you weren't before because your subconscious is already just thinking about it in the background. It's like, wow, this goal is really important to her still, and she has not achieved it yet. So let's keep working on that, right? And so in his book, Brian Tracy says, your superconscious mind is stimulated by clear, written, specific goals that are intensely desired. They're visualized regularly and they're constantly worked towards. So I think that really drives home a lot of the points that we talked about. And so let's recap real quick. The 7 common goal setting mistakes that you want to avoid are having vague goals, having no clear action plan, ignoring contradicting beliefs, having an unsupportive environment, having no objective progress measures, delaying action, and setting and forgetting about them. What we've talked about as we've gone through these 7 mistakes is really the antidote to them to enhance your goal attainment is to, number 1, set specific, meaningful, outcome-oriented goals. You want to develop a clear action plan for them. You want to strengthen supportive beliefs that you can, that it's worthwhile, it's possible for you. You want to design a supportive environment. You want to set meaningful and objective progress measures. You don't want to delay. You want to start with simple, immediate action today. And you want to develop a daily habitual goal review practice so you're keeping those top of mind every day, getting your brain to work on them even when you're not consciously thinking of them. Avoiding these 7 mistakes can completely change the way that you set and actually achieve your goals. But to make it easier, I have created that free goal setting guide and checklist. So if you would like that to help walk through step by step, setting the clear goals, aligning your beliefs and your environment, and tracking your progress the right way, then make sure you click down in the description and get your copy of that. I hope you learned something valuable here today, or maybe even it was just a timely reminder for you of some things that you already knew, but you kind of let slide. Make sure you click subscribe if you aren't already so you see future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.